From the 260 to the 469, good morning. Welcome to another weekly recap of the DNFL. You saw I hit my mic there, but we are ready to go. As Forrest would say, how's it going? Yeah, thanks for tuning in for another week, another weekly recap. And yeah, I think for this week, we're going to start it off like we do every week. Adam, how's the weather? The weather this week, if I'm looking outside right now, it's a little gloomy. It's a little chilly outside, but we'll see. I want to start off too with circling back to our topic of conversation to open up last week the question, who am I? Who am I? Um, yeah, I had a friend in college tell me once that his first impression of me was that I had RBF. Like Caleb, if you go into his office normally in the afternoon at work, RBF, really bad farts. Yeah, yep, that's what I have. But yeah, yeah. But yeah, who am I? Who am I? I was at a card show last Saturday, and I normally walk around the tables, get a lay of the land. And granted, like I don't think I look that old. I mean, I turned 30 in like a few weeks, which is weird to say, but I feel like I'm a kid at heart, you know? So I'm walking around, I've got my plain colored shirt on. I'm wearing my jeans, I'm wearing my sneakers. And this kid, not this kid, he was a nice kid. But he tells me he's probably like 17, 18, maybe even early 20s. He says, "How's it going, sir?" And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, "Oh, that's nice. That's nice of you to say." But this happens to me a lot lately where I get called sir a lot in public, and I'm like, "Am I that old now?" The guy was being nice, but yeah, it's something that's been on my mind when I get called sir now in the grocery store or even at other events like a card show. I understand people want to be respectful, but at the same time, I'm like, am I really that old? I don't know. That's the hard part. But yeah, kind of comparing to the card show though, I think there is something to be said that I've kind of learned on the card scene over time that I think is applicable to the topic, the art of the trade, the art of the trade. So, this is something that I've learned over the last, I would say, 3.5 years of going to card shows. Normally, like, I'd say anywhere between, say, 5 to 7 times a year. These are like local shows down at the fairgrounds in Fort Wayne, or even like regional shows in Shipshewana or Indy. But I will say, like, if I'm walking up to a dealer's table, the dealer, they pay money for the table. So they have some sort of like extra incentive to get their table fee back. Normally, they get a better end on getting a percentage off if they're buying or trading from you. That's just how things work. But a lot of the people I choose to not trade with or not buy from, I get a really big, like, used car salesman vibe, and what do I mean by that? I mean 2 things. 1, is the deal fair for both parties? I understand you paid for your table, I understand I'm a little lower, but at the same time, I don't feel like you should be getting that huge of an advantage over me. The other part of this used car salesman, the second part is I don't feel like you should be trying to convince me what I want to buy or what I want. I think I kind of have an idea going into a show. Hey, here's the things that I'm looking for. Here's what I'm willing to pay. This goes into trading too. So if I am in a league, I want to make sure that the party that I am dealing with has a good experience and they are willing to trade with me again. Some might say, Adam, you've sent bad trades before. Honestly, I'm not playing this year. And I feel like I've changed a lot in this over time. Well, maybe the last year. I feel like I'd be more of a fair trade partner for both sides, but that's just my thought. Like, I, if I'm doing a trade with someone, I want to make sure both parties are equal, both parties are happy. That way, if we want to trade again, we can trade again, maybe that year or the following year. The second part is, again, like if I'm looking at your team, I kind of already know what I would want or what I would need, just looking at your roster. And I don't necessarily need to be convinced of, hey, this is what you need. Um, no, I kind of already know. I kind of already have an idea of what I need. But yeah, that's kind of my bit with trading. Trading in the league. Are you trading with a used car salesman or a new car salesman? Yeah, that's just one thing I think you should consider with those 2 points. Are both parties getting equal value? Are both parties being treated fairly? And am I being sold on something that I'm not entirely sure that I would need? But yeah, those are just some thoughts that have been on my mind that have been bannered around the league. Also, a topic of conversation this week was Peyton Manning, the worst starting quarterback in Super Bowl history. I think that's a very bold take to make, considering Peyton Manning is probably, I'd say, he's on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. I understand that was his last year and his stats weren't that good. At the same time, I think that Broncos team was very complete from top to bottom. I would say the defense was great. I don't know if I would say it was all time. And I say that because I think if you want to make the case that he was the worst starting quarterback, I think when you're looking back at the best defenses of all time, I can think of at least three off the top of my head. I think if I did more digging, I could probably find more. But I think of the Bears in '85, their defense, the Seahawks defense, and then the Ravens defense. I don't feel like when we look back at the top defenses in NFL history, that Broncos team gets mentioned enough. So that's just my 2 cents on making that argument where yeah, I thought that was a little disrespectful, but hot take on that. But let's move on to actual news in the DNFL. Let me go ahead and share my screen on here. Let's go to the league scoreboard and let me go ahead and move to last week. So, looking at last week, um, Hoodlums getting the win over Doug Baby. Looks like Doug Baby needed a extra blessing to get 7 more points. Um, Strong Calves. Is that I think that's Ryan. No, that's Blake. Yeah, I kinda like what Blake's doing right now. But oh, that's funny. So, I think Sam if yeah, I think he's in, but Zach Hartley, I think that's in reference to Zach Hartley, but Zach Discipleship, that's clever. Um, Dinner Saturday. I don't know if someone's inviting me to dinner. And IU for college football playoff, beating Pup List and Headbangers. Um, that's Caleb, yeah. But yeah, those are your numbers from this last week. I think another exercise I am going to do real quick. I'm gonna go to the homepage, go into scoring leaders for the season, and what I want to try. Okay, this will be an interesting exercise, I think. Yeah, I have an idea of what I want to do here, but let me go ahead and stop sharing this screen and share a different screen. Let's see, share scoring leaders. So you can see on the scoring leaders page, I want to point out to 3 players on here. I want to point out to, and granted, like Alvin Kamara has already played. Baker has already played. I'm not going to talk about Baker in this, but I want to talk about Kamara. I want to talk about Derrick Henry, maybe Jaden Daniels, and Chris Godwin. Yeah, let me go ahead and go over to the DNFL results from the auction. And again, this is me pointing to like, I feel like a lot of the time we spend a lot on really really good players preseason and they don't always pan out finishing this high. Granted, we're 6 weeks in, but I think it's an interesting exercise. But with let's start with Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, being one of the top receivers in fantasy this year, Blake got him for $9. Let's keep going. I think Ryan ended up, yep, Ryan got Jaden Daniels, but then traded him away. He's on Blake's team. Jaden Daniels hasn't played yet this week, but one of the best starting quarterbacks fantasy wise in the NFL, $6. Um, Caleb, Caleb, we have Alvin Kamara. Again, I don't think he had a great game last game, but overall this season, he's been very good. Top player in fantasy, $11. This one may be a little bit of an outlier, but it's somewhat, yeah, no, it proves my point. Um, Derrick Henry, one of the top running backs in fantasy this year, has not played yet this week. Jaden got him in $39 compared to $70 or $60 like a lot of the other top preseason running backs. So what I'm trying to say here is basically I think in future years if you're wanting to, I don't know, improve upon, and the strategy hasn't necessarily panned out, but when I was drafting, this is what I kind of did. I think it's better to build depth on players that can kind of exceed their placement going forward. And yeah, those are a few teams that I had mentioned where I think those managers have done really well picking those players. And I think, I guess aside from Ryan trading them away, actually, no, I think Ryan's four. Yep, forget what I said about Ryan. Ryan's 4-2. So yeah, so all those examples, like all those teams have winning records right now, which I think is interesting. Yeah, the only other thing that I want to mention this week, and I want to give my voice a little bit of a rest. Let me go ahead and bring on the person that is doing the countdown for the DNFL top songs of the week. We have, let's bring him on. I think his name is, let me look up to make sure. Yep. Let's bring on Casey Kasem. Hi, and welcome to the top songs of the DNFL. The top song for this week is none other than, let me see if I can share my screen. This goes out to all the dogs on the pup list, but we have for our top song this week, we have Chihuahua in the Sky. Let's let it rip.
Little Zeke, so small and brave, caught in destiny's sweeping wave. Hawk's embrace lifted him high, now he glides across the sky. Eyes crossed like stars on dance, he found his way by purest chance. Guardian angel first so bright, in the heavens endless light. Chihuahua in the sky, Zeke flies, watching us with ancient eyes. Never tasting death, he soars, protects us with his tiny paws. From above he sees our days, guides our steps through shadow maze. Wings of grace, his nightly veil. In whisper soft, he tells our tale. Heart so true, it shines divine. In the sky where stars align. He won't leave us, he's our light. In the darkest of the night, Chihuahua in the skies, he flies, watching us with ancient eyes. Never tasting death, he soars, protects us with his tiny paws. Chihuahua in the skies, he flies, watching us with ancient eyes. Never tasting death, he soars, protects us with his tiny paws.
Thanks again for sharing that, Stench Booty. This is Casey Kasem signing off. Thanks for sharing, Casey. We're gonna do one more week of that just to see how things end up going. If Blake is the only one to submit one again this week, and I like the song, Casey will play it again. Casey Kasem will play it again. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. One more week, and we will see how that goes. Forrest wanted me to talk a little bit about this, and let me go ahead and share the league office page right now. I normally do this at the end every week. So let me scroll to the bottom, and we have our power rankings at the bottom. And Forrest wants me to share my thoughts just on how the end of the year will finish up. As you can see, I think that is Caleb projected to finish first. Zach discipleship, I think, finishing third. Strong Cavs finishing second, and IU for college football playoff. I would say, like, if you're asking me right now, which teams do I think will finish near the top at the end of the year? I think those projections are accurate. Yeah, I believe so. Let me look at one other thing. I'll look at Blake's team. I forget because people change their names every week. It's hard to figure out who's who. But if you're asking me, hey, who do I think is one team that could play spoiler to these four teams? I would say if I go over to the league rosters, it'd be nice. Oh, we do have records on here. That's nice. Oh yeah, it was strong Cavs. That is Blake's team. I would say if you're asking me who could play spoiler, if I was in the playoffs, I don't think I would want to play Jaden's team. I think Barkley and Henry are two players that could put up a lot of points. Mike Evans is solid every year. Aaron Jones, I think he's having a pretty decent year. But oh yeah, and he still has Puka Nakua on IR that could come back before the playoffs. So yeah, I would not want to play Jaden's team. I think he is a team that could potentially play spoiler. I think Zach discipleship and um who else? IU for college football playoff. I like them and strong Cavs and headbangers. I think those are all interesting teams that can finish top at the end of the year. But this is one final thought that I will share, and then I will sign off. But um, do we remember the regular season teams, or do we remember which team won it all? I think back to the Patriots 16-0 regular season. Do we remember that more, or do we remember the fact that the Patriots lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl? Just food for thought. I understand there is a payout for regular season champ, but if you're asking me, who is the team to remember at the end of the year? It's the team that won the title. But that is my final thought for this week. I will not be doing one of these next week. I am taking a long weekend trip with my dad. It is a trip that we do every year. I think as our parents get older and we have the time and availability too, I try to do this trip once a year. It's a really good experience to hang out with my dad and spend time with him. If you have a good relationship still with your parents, I would encourage you to do something similar. But yep, this is Adam Miller signing off from another weekly recap of the DNFL. I hope you get your points this week. I hope your footballs stay inflated and not deflated. And I'll see you next week.